Listen, good morning to one and all. Good morning. Welcome to today's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today is Monday, first working day of the week, Monday, the 22nd day of September in the year of our Lord 2025. Welcome, welcome, one and all. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, including the Warrior fans. I hope you had a good weekend. I know you didn't, but I'm just teasing you. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you had I said a good weekend, and you're looking forward to a productive week. Here we are once again to bring you credible, valuable information. Today, another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks for being in the land of the living. It is a privilege to be in the land of the living, and we should never, ever take that for granted. So yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. My colleague, as usual, is already in the studio. He's waiting for his opportunity, his turn to bring you some incredible information. And sit back. You know, the gates were open at 8 this morning, and that is the new time for the early morning program or the morning program. 8 o'clock gates are open, and as is customary now, the students were all there lined up to enter. So we're going to do roll call in a short while. You know, the truncated one, those who came in early will be recognized. And then we're going to move on to tell you of the many, many things. We have so much to tell you. We have so much to tell you this morning. You know, let me say this. For this program, right, when we finish one day, the last day we finished on Friday there, we had some things left back. Couldn't go into it. And we said, all right, we're going to bring them to you the next program day, which is today. But so many things happen in the intervening time, so many things that you need to know. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to go into those things immediately. So the thing is so fluid. And we remember this program speaks of, we're talking about incompetence, corruption, incompetence. And there are so many issues to be addressed from day to day. And we're not going to stop. We are not going to stop because this is important that the public is made aware, because, you know, the media landscape in Guyana is of such that most of them, well, we admit it, are pro-government. So these, what they consider bad news, they don't bring. News, nevertheless, but unless it shows the government in a good light, they suppress it. Now we are here to bring you the good and the bad and the in-between. So we have a lot to tell you this morning. We have a lot to tell you. As we said in the announcement for the program, road fatalities again. Almost every day we come on this program, new people are dying. Almost every day. Murder again over the weekend. That is why you have more drugs. As I posted sometime yesterday, back in the day, they used to tease the coalition and say, let the blow, blow, blow. But now it's let the cocaine flow. We're going to talk about it. Right? Large fines of cocaine and ammunition and all kind of things. We are in some dangerous times, and they don't want to admit it. They come and they try to attack the messengers without analyzing the message. Analyze the message, and I say, if we say anything on this program that is incorrect, come and, as you like to do, come and debunk it. Come and debunk it. But you know, they have not been able to do so. Because as you know, we do our research. We don't just take things at face value. You know how much people just call and tell me things, message and tell you all sort of thing? We don't make the show. You know why? Because we have got to make sure that those things are credible. We verify. Because our reputation is at stake. We're not going to come here and just tell you things and then it turn out to be false. People setting us up and then here was cybercrime charges. No. We make sure those things are investigated. Any bit of information we get is properly researched, properly investigated, and then we present it to you. So yeah, continue to share the live, and we're gonna get with you in a short while. Share the live. I say another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. In terms of the roll call, as I said, we gotta recognize the students who come in early. Right? Will be the current, that is the new style now. So the first person in this morning was Aubrey, exactly 8 o'clock, followed by Carl, Leon, Gebo is here, Peter, Kenneth is all the way from Maryland. Tessa from Florida. Kerry from Maryland as well. Clifton is all the way from Paris. Kevin is here. Desiree from Georgia. Puran, Essequibo Coast. Felicia. Joan from New Amsterdam. Diane, Morton, Vashti, Evelyn, Rawl, 11752. Semple is here. Pamela Westdam. Orin, Grantley. Clarence, John, Pastor Smith is here with us. Brenda, Wayne from the UK. Brian, Earl, Francis Keith from Melanie. Anthony from Petersall. Sean from upstate New York. Courtney, Derek, Marcus, David, Pinky, and Princess Earl. They came in very, very early. Within the first couple of minutes, they were in. And then when the program went, when the school doors were open, that's when the gate is open. When the school door or the doors were open, the first morning I checked it was by Charles again, right? Let me find it to show you all who came in first. He's a regular, he don't miss, he has his system to make sure that he's here early. Edward Charles was here. Then we had Althea, Lennox, Joyce, and then Eshwan, the secretary, Denise, Yolanda is here. They all came Lynette from Barbados is here. And then the next Lynette is also here, right? So Brandy came in early too. So yes, those are the early students, those when the school gates were open and when the doors were open. Now for the announcements, as we said, we start with this sad ones first. We did tell you about the death of policewoman, and Nasan, based on what I'm hearing, 32 years old police corporal, right? 22302, Tamika McIntosh, right? The information is, well, we know she died recently, and the wake will be, there was a wake at Providence Station sometime last week. The next wake is tonight at our residence, and that is 46 Chodeville, West Coast Demerara. Our funeral will take place on the 24th. We don't have, this Wednesday, we don't have the details yet, but on the 24th. Then we told you to, well, that's the one death. And over the weekend, more again, they reported, we're going to get the details a little later. Another murder reported at Anai Rupununi, 21-year-old tour guide, John Elliott, stabbed by a 16-year-old. Right? Then we had over the weekend 3 more road fatalities. We got to tell about 3 more, including an 8-year-old child on Friday afternoon. On our way from school, her father towing her on an electric bike, they claim. Some driver appears to have been reckless, crashed into them from behind. The girl is dead and her father critical in hospital. So that is what you have. That is why we're going to come back to that because we need to talk more about the road deaths and what is going on the road. Then for the happier or the more pleasant announcement, today is the birth anniversary of a former member, Keith Morian. He's a regular on the show. I'm sure Keith, if you're looking now, you can look later. Maury is celebrating his birth anniversary today. Also celebrating anniversary today are my favorite twins, Astel and Alistair Collins. Astel and Alistair Collins, my favorite twins, are celebrating the birth anniversary today. They have this place at the mall there in Lamar Street, things to do with you want documents prepared, notarized, and all this type of thing, affidavits sworn to. They do all of that there on Lamar Street. That is the place next to the temple, right? And then belated birthday greetings are going out to former Gordon Collins. Gordon is in Canada, and E2 is a regular on the program. He celebrated his birth anniversary yesterday. And then in terms of the advance, Sean Maxwell, another student, Sean, is celebrating his birthday. I think it's tomorrow. Tyron Grant. Tyron, another member or former member, is celebrating tomorrow. And a very good friend of mine in Florida, Dennis Floyd, Strodeville man. Dennis from Strodeville. Dennis is going to be observing, celebrating, whatever you want to call it, his birth anniversary tomorrow, Tuesday the 23rd. So to all those who celebrated, who are celebrating today, or even not celebrated, whether you're observing it today, who celebrated or observed recently, and who are going to celebrate or observe in the near future. All the best to you on your natal day. It's a good time to go around another trip around the sun. One more year upon them. That is the tune. One more year upon them. Some people saying 5 more years upon them. I don't know what I mean by that. But, the song, one more year upon them. So congratulations to all those celebrants. Congratulations to all those. Let me bring in Mr. Conway to give his opening remarks. And then we're going to move into some other issues as the program moves on. CC, welcome. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, notwithstanding the disappointment that you would have suffered last evening. Welcome, my brother.
Good morning. Happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. Yes, I had an excellent weekend, mostly with my grandchildren, but it spoiled a bit last night watching the cricket. But then cricket is a game of glorious uncertainties. Birthday greetings are in place, as you mentioned. I want to shout out to a couple of people. Tyson, a former rugby player, he shouted out to me on Saturday. Never met him before. And we had a wonderful conversation. And I'm sure that the confabulation will continue. Shout out to Joseph Adams, a prominent gold miner who I met since in the early 80s. He's still in the gold mining business. I hope that he will find all the gold that he's looking for. Shout out to Desiree and shout out to Grace. She's over 80, but sure she on the program here. She doesn't miss a program. And I want to shout out to some people in Marudi Mountains, where it is extensive gold mining going on there, and where the Brazilians are dominating, more Brazilian than Guyanese. And those of you who don't know where Marudi Mountain is in deep south in a Shelton area, close to the Brazilian border. Lots and lots of gold mining, but Brazilian dominating. And I want to shout out to a man I call the general who's working there. I understand he has some medical issues. He had to travel about 8 miles, about 8 hours to get to Latham, and he's recovering well at the Latham Hospital. He said the nurses are doing an excellent job, and by tomorrow morning, he'll be out. And just come to me before I forget, I understand there's a over $80 million fraud at a constitutional office in Upper High Street, Main Street. And it's a constitutional office, very much in the news. Sometimes they get protests there. And the head of that constitutional office, very silent. We don't hear from that body. When I stand over the weekend, they lock up the whole section there dealing with finance, and about $80 million fraud going on there, and they lock up from left, right, and center. As long as you're working that department, you get locked up. But we're going to see what will develop later on.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Thank you. Yeah, Maureen said, busy signal, man. One more year upon them. How we gonna do it again? Yeah, that is what the appropriate for body, not so appropriate in terms of the politics. Yeah. So yes. Now they talk about the disappointment. CC referenced the disappointment last night. Well, let me tell you this. I told you how long ago. I am not an Amazon Warrior fan. I'm a cricket fan. I love the game cricket. I had a wonderful yesterday. I saw Pakistan and India in the Asia Cup. Excellent game. As a matter of fact, Pakistan should be playing Sri Lanka now. I watch cricket. So last night, I decided I'm going to watch, as I've done once I get the time. But before looking at the game, I decided that I am going to look to see, the toss is spun half an hour before the commencement of the game, usually, unless there's some weather interruption. So, like about 7:45 yesterday, I went to Cricinfo to see who won the toss and who batted. And I saw that Amazon won the toss and Amazon decided to bat first. And I was surprised. Because I know, and the people who are following cricket I know. But first of all, let me say this: you can never really second guess the team management, because normally this is not a captain's decision. It's not a one-man decision. It's a team management. The coach and the other people will get down, they examine the wicket before they start the game. They look at the weather forecast. They look at all of those things. Not only weather forecast during the game, but you look to see what conditions were there during the day, because that might very inform as to whether you're going to get formation of dew and all. So it's a lot of complex things. But I was surprised when I saw that Amazon won the toss and elected to bat. I said, well, maybe, I'm not there, I wasn't at the stadium. So I said, maybe there's something going on which has influenced that decision. Because under normal circumstances, let me tell you this, with the little cricket knowledge I get, me no expert, both teams, TKR and Amazon Warriors, are heavily dependent on this spin attack. 3 top class spinners on both sides. And therefore, the normal trend is that you want your spin bowlers, and night cricket we're talking about, to be bowling first. So you insert the opposition so that the bowl first, when the dew, if there's to be dew, has not taken any effect, because the dew makes the ball very wet and slippery and difficult for them to control. And then they say the dew on the wicket makes the ball comes onto the bat much easier. So that was the first surprise I got, that they decide they're going to bat first. Right? And the next thing, in white ball cricket, there's 50 over and 20 over cricket. Most times people win the toss, they insert the opposition, because if there is to be a weather intervention, it is established that the team batting second get an advantage with the DNL, the Dr. Lewis Thorne method, because you know where you need to be after every over. So all of those would have been factors, all of those. So they bat first, and they didn't do well. They recovered to make 130. But I said to people, I know score for to chase them. Secondly, because you're bowling with a ball that is supposed to be a little wet, more difficult to control. You're bowling at a time when the ball is supposed to be coming onto the bat much easier. And then a team know exactly what they got to do. You got to go at breakneck speed. You know exactly you can pace yourself. Because whether you get it in the last ball of the 20th over, or you get it in the first ball in the 52, it doesn't matter. It's a final, you get it. So that what was it. That was it. So Amazon Warrior, I think this is the 8th time they went to the finals, 8th time. And they won one year before the last. Won them against Trinidad. And then if you reflect on that too, when they won that game against Trinidad, they won the toss, right at Providence, inserted Tobago Knight Riders, bowled them out for 90-something, and then they won the game. But let me tell you this further. I'm bringing CC, because he's a cricket man like me. When you look at it, I mean, here, disgracefully, the booing Karen Pollard at the end of the game, the Warriors fan as well. Disgraceful. Disgraceful. What did Pollard do to deserve that? Pollard is one of the cricketing brain around the world, not only in Caribbean, or even TKR, cricketing brain. The services, they demand the service all over. All the franchises. And a man, 38 years old, and the man did so well. He's an outstanding fielder. For this year, he bowled more than many other years. He beat the bowling on many occasions, and they're booing. And then not only that, look at the management. It was clear that Bravo and Pollard and that management team sat down and worked out every single Guyanese batsman and bowlers. Clear. When Guyana started the bat, short leg in a T20 game to Samson. And what happened? It worked because they knew. And that's the thing about technology now. They would have looked at the technology and then realized that this man is susceptible to a short ball. They would have looked at the technology, because I think this is the 3rd time in the last 3 games or 4 games you get out to a short ball. So the people know when you come on new on the scene, perhaps you have an advantage. But after a little while, you are analyzed and your weaknesses are going to be exploited by the opposition. When they come to Pretorius and all these people down on the bottom there, bowl it full wide outside the half stump. Wide outside. The people had a plan, so even if you bowl one wide, it doesn't matter. outside you have some nothing coming in his arc for him to fire, and that is how cricket is played. When it came for them to bat, they decided that you must have a left hand and a right hander, and they maintained that to the point where even Sunil Narayan, I think this is the highest or the earliest he batted for this whole tournament. He batted because they wanted left hand, right hand. And then they bring in Akil Hussain, who scored the left hand, right hand. This is thinking. Cricket is a thinking game. Cricket is not long ago, you got a lot of talent. And talent is good. But you have to be carefully managed. You got to plan the game and how you're going to play. And then you can't stop Pollard and Bravo and them from that. Because even in the IPL, they are in demand for the cricketing acumen, the cricketing knowledge. So for booing Pollard, because what you know? What did he do? Everybody know Pollard. Who know Polly? Know Polly. Polly can go to short leg, or he come to steal him it off, and he gonna rip you. And if you are a professional and a man there under your butt and teasing you, you can't overcome that to triumph. Then you ought not to be at that level. So congratulations to the Trinidad and Tobago Knight Riders. Congratulations, commiserations to the Amazon Warriors. Again, by now you all have to be accustomed to that. My big disappointment, I'm making a joke here, so let me tell you, my big disappointment is that GPL did not intervene as they did. Well, it wasn't GPL intervention last year, but last year they had a blackout, and Trinidad seated over that because of the power failure. Trinidad felt they were denied a place in the final. So, tough luck, Amazon. Come again. You have maintained your bridesmaid record. 8 times they have gone to the finals. 8 times. And this is the, only one time. Before they last, they won. When they had an opportunity to win in St. Kitts many years ago against Barbados Trident, they made politics intervene and they lost. And let me tell you how, because of the wrong this cricket land, Barbados batted first. In them days, Pollard used to be with Barbados, right? Maybe I'll make the vex with Polly. And Barbados made what was considered to be a modest score, right? And then when the Warriors started to reply, rain intervened, the weather intervened. Dinesh Ramdin was the captain of the Warriors then. And then when it was time for the play to resume, right? When they worked out the Duckworth-Lewis-Storn method, wasn't Storn, I think then, Duckworth-Lewis method, they decided on a reduced number of deliveries, overs, to complete the game. And this is when the politics intervened. The Warriors, politicians, wanted to have an entire game because they felt that would have been advantageous to them. They felt that if you were to follow the rules and just reduce according to Duckworth-Lewis, that might not have been favorable. There was a long discussion. I was there in St. Kitts. And Polly insisted you got to play DL. The umpire said, you got to play DL. They brought in lawyers, all sort of thing in the cricket there that night. I never forget it. Never, ever forget it. And then when they decided, all right, eventually, we're going to call the names of the Guyanese who are there, politicians and owners and all. I'll call the name, right? But let them challenge anything that I say. When they finally decided they have to go with Duckworth-Lewis and the playing conditions, Pollard then reminded them that the cutoff time had passed. The time by which the match should end had passed. And Pollard said, in that case, we are the winners because we ain't going out back there. It was a big animosity. And people, Polly, right, you play by the rules of the game. You're playing by the rules. For Collie and G come, you ain't changing rules along the way. Right? You understand? So let me understand what's going on. So you got to give a background to this thing for people to understand what's going on. Right? I see somebody say we talking too much about cricket. Well, that is how it goes. That is how we run every show. You understand? So give you all this background. Again, cricket fans will understand. Cricket fan is a sport, but Bill Crombie says it's not whether you win or you lose, but how you play the game. Let me bring in Mr. Conway. CC, good morning again. Let me hear your cricket. What about?
Was it curry chicken or chicken curry? The Trinidadians were more tactical. They're more strategic. Since earlier matches, perhaps they listened to Bishop, because Bishop said that our star man there, or star opening batsman, who they say is a police sergeant and role sergeant, was suspect to short pitch delivery. And the very first of you see this, they use deploy Pollard right on the bat, and that was it. And they use a lot of what we call matchup, which batsman to play, which bowler to bowl, left hand, right hand combination, as you mentioned, So they were more tactical than the Amazon Warrior, and as a result, they won. Not that really easily. Came down close, as Bill Crombie would say, came down almost to the wire. But they were more tactical than Amazon Warriors, and they won, and they deserve to win. Although I'm a Warrior fan, I set up and listen. Me, I got my wife and my grandson who's 11-year old. Yeah, we always watch it, we listen to it, But disappointed for us. But there's a game. Cricket is a game of glorious uncertainties, and congratulations to the Night Riders.
Yeah, again, congratulations. Now, moving on. Let's remind you, Tribal, today, the 22nd of September, is the beginning of fall season. The autumn season begins today. So, summer is over. It's now autumn, then the winter comes on and so on. So that's just information for the people who live in these countries with the seasons. Even though in Guyana they talk about summer. The funny thing in Guyana, you're gonna hear summer party, you're gonna hear a party where they don't talk about winter and fall and that type of thing. Next month, you're gonna hear they get Halloween party in Guyana and all that other thing, man. You're gonna hear in November, and he's talking about Thanksgiving and all of these type of things. So yeah, that is what it is. And a reminder that this month is Amerindian Heritage Month, and the brothers and sisters continue to celebrate. And it was so sad, therefore, when we learned of the death. Some celebration they had in Anai, and they are reporting, police are reporting that the Amerindian, what they say. And I believe by now we should all agree that the police force and the public propaganda unit, they are unredeemable. The nonsense that they write, the things that they say put out to the public makes them unredeemable. They can't learn. I am convinced now that with the current configuration, they can't learn. So they have this murder. So here what they write, alleged murder, 16-year-old school dropout is prime suspect. Imagine the police writing something like that. 16-year-old school dropout is prime suspect. That's what they say. Then they go on at Amerindian Heritage Month celebration in Anai Region 9. Ghana Police Force, Ghana Police Force are investigating. I read what they write, Ghana Police Force are investigating the alleged murder of 21-year-old John Elliott, a tourist guide at Atta Lodge, and who resides at Surama Village, North Rupununi, which occurred about 1:30 hours today, that's yesterday morning, September the 21st, 2025. 21-year-old Elliott was allegedly stabbed and subsequently died during a confrontation with 3 male suspects at the Amerindian Heritage celebration at Anai Village, North Rupununi. The main suspect is a 16-year-old school dropout named withheld, along with a 20-year-old, and they get the 20-year-old name, and his brother, 18-year-old, all of Anai Village. The incident was the incident was witnessed by a female police rank who was in attendance at the celebration. The rank, who is stationed at the Anai police station, positively identified the 16-year-old suspect as the person who stabbed Elliott to his chest and has provided a detailed statement of the incident. The 16-year-old suspect, who was later found at the home of the 2 other suspects, Orlando and Ronaldo Williams, was arrested and escorted to the Anai police station, where he was placed in custody. The suspect was questioned in the presence of his mother. He denied any involvement and stated that it was one of the other suspects, 18-year-old Orlando, who had stabbed the victim. At about 14 hours today, the body of the deceased was examined at the Anai District Hospital, and 2 stab wounds were observed to the left side chest and right side rib. A postmortem examination, blah, blah, blah. The efforts are being made to apprehend the other 2 suspects, and further investigations are ongoing. But let me ask this: to the police, this what is the significance of mentioning that the suspect is a 16-year-old school dropout? Huh? What is the importance? What is the relevance of him being a school dropout? What you're trying? What image you're trying to portray? And that's what we're saying. But this unprofessional thing, the writing us are the crap. So I don't know if these things are vetted. You're trying to prejudice the public against this suspect by saying he's a 16-year-old school dropout. Is he the only school dropout involved in some suspected incident or crime? I believe that was unnecessary for that to be mentioned. Y'all can say what y'all want to say. But to mention that it was a 16-year-old school dropout who is the suspect, I believe is inappropriate. I believe it's inappropriate. But again, condolences to the relative of this young man who died, some altercation. The next thing you might very well hear that according to Blanham say, remember Blanham made a report some time ago, say alcohol or alcohol consumption is a main factor in crimes. That is what the crime chief of Guyana said. Alcohol consumption is a main factor in crime. So I want to express condolences to the relatives of that deceased person. Let me bring in Mr. Conway to comment on that. See, they mentioned it of this 16-year-old school dropout. Yeah? What is the importance of that?
I don't know, unless they want to tarnish his image. 16-year-old full stop. But, there's a police force, and then I think anybody vetting them thing, perhaps just as how the message maybe it's circulated to headquarters from NI, they just send it just, and there's the whole story. That nobody, as we say, nobody is vetting anything. So they just send out what they want to send out, and that's it.
But it tarnishes the image. The force, when you send out this thing, you're tarnishing the image of the force. Then there was we told you about fatal accidents, So over the weekend, there are 3, or they were 3. Friday afternoon, and this is really, really, really sad, Really sad. Friday afternoon, Parika, here with a report. Police probing death of schoolgirl in Parika, Baghdad, accident. Right? They call them an accident. Surprising. The police are investigating the fatal accident on Friday, September the 19th, 2025, on the Parika, Baghdad, main access road, East Bank, Essequibo, that resulted in the death of 8-year-old Supriya Khan of Namrik Koka, East Bank, Demerara. A release from the police said that the fatal accident occurred about 3:05 p.m. and involved a motor pickup GAB 162 driven by 22-year-old Arif Ali of Parika, East Bank, Essequibo, and an electric cycle operated by 32-year-old Imran Khan of Namrik Koka, along with his daughter, 8-year-old Supriya Khan, who was the pillion rider. Preliminary inquiries revealed that the electric cycle was proceeding east along the road when the pickup, which was proceeding in the same direction behind the electric bike, attempted to pass the bike and in the process collided with Khan and Supriya. As a result of the collision, Imran Khan and Supriya fell on the road and suffered injuries to their body. Supriya Khan was picked up by the driver of the pickup in an unconscious state and taken to the Kenjan Public Hospital, where she was pronounced dead on arrival by a doctor. Imran Khan was also taken to the said hospital, was admitted suffering from a fractured skull. Then they say the body they was escorted to the funeral parlor, but here at the end they say breathalyzer test conducted on 22-year-old Arif Ali showed his blood alcohol content at 128% and 134%. That's what I said. Now, there are certain things to, again, I said they are unredeemable. But I say, as a result of the collision, Imran Khan and Supriya Khan fell on the road and suffered injuries to their bodies. They suffer injuries to their body. Why not only suffer injuries? Well, they could have suffered injury anywhere else. Perhaps emotional injury, perhaps psychological injury. You see, they're right. They have these people who are writing these things and they don't analyze. So when people with sense read it, they want to know what the nonsense these people say. And then to come to the last paragraph to tell us that breathalyzer test conducted on 22-year-old Alif Ali, who was the driver of this pickup, showed his blood alcohol content at 128% and 134%. What does that mean? What does that mean? Nobody wants to know about what percentage of alcohol he had in his blood. 128. Well, so if the blood is 100 and you get 128, so you say he had more alcohol and blood in his system? That is what you're implying? That is what you're stating? Let us know whether the test showed whether he was above or below the legal limit for the consumption of alcohol and driving a vehicle. That is what people want to know. You want to know whatever number comes up. As I showed, they don't give it by percent. You want to know, and all you could have said that a breathalyzer test was conducted and he was found to be above the legal limit. Full stop. What you tell about 128% and 130%? What nonsense you are saying? And I hope, let me say this early. Let me say this early. Given what you all are reporting now, that this man, Imran Khan, 32-year-old, pick up his daughter. It's a sad story when you read the thing, sad story. Man pick up his daughter as is customary, can't she home from school. Sister down at the back, he get an electric bike. This man, they claim drunken driver, came, struck them, killed the girl. Then the father is critical. He has a fractured skull. That's what they're reporting. He has a fractured skull. I am saying to you that based on what the Attorney General Anil Nandlal SC MP has said, and the law that he piloted through Parliament, the fact that this man was under the influence of alcohol at the time when this accident occurred, he should be charged with motor manslaughter. That is what y'all telling people, He should be charged with motor manslaughter because you're saying that he drove recklessly and he was drunk. And according to the amended law, if you're involved in an accident which resulted in the death of someone, and you're found at that time to have been over the legal limit, then it's not no causing death by dangerous driving. It's motor manslaughter. So we await to see what will happen in this case. And there are a lot of things too to talk about, This man was riding, and I'm casting blame here. I'm being a police as it's in my blood. So he was riding this electric scooter. The law says that electric scooters should be registered, should have license. The rider should have helmet. Were all these things in place? Y'all didn't mention that. Y'all did not mention that. And I'm assuming based on what you said that the rider of the cycle, or the electric cycle, suffered a fractured skull. Maybe, therefore, he wasn't wearing a safety helmet. Maybe, or even if he was wearing it, maybe it wasn't properly fastened. Because a lot of people wear the safety helmet and just have it on the top of their head. So they slightly shake it, fall off. And that's a result of people telling them over the years, you head hard, you can't learn. So they must take it literally. But it's sad, 8-year-old gone. Our father is critical. And then yesterday on the Linden Suicide Highway again in the vicinity Kurukuru, some car, look at it. Some car crashed into a truck again on the Linden Highway. 2 men, the driver and the passenger, both of them died yesterday. Both of them died. And what are they doing? They're going to come out with some foolish statement. They're going to tell you how things are reducing and they issue much ticket and so on. And this morning, somewhere, I don't know where it is exactly. Look, this morning, another crash up. I hope nobody is seriously injured or dead from this one. That occurred this morning. This morning. It's lawlessness on the road. Lawlessness. And I want to remind you, before I bring in Mr. Conway, that about a year or so ago, when you had a spate of fatal accidents, what did they do? They removed Dennis Stevens as the traffic chief. They put in Mahendra Singh. And I think since Mahendra Singh has been there, the records will show. Maybe we're getting more fatal accidents. Maybe we're having more fatal and other accidents. But nothing can happen. Nothing is going to happen to him. That is the thing when we're talking. Because we say again, And let me be fair. This is not a police thing now, This thing has gained national significance. The police alone can't rein in what is going on the road there. It's a crisis. It's a culture of lawlessness. A culture of lawlessness on the roads and elsewhere. And if you want to change a culture, them piecemeal methods where you're Nandalal and the president talking about can't work, will never work. piecemeal measures cannot work to change a culture. And we must admit that what we're seeing in Guyana, especially on the roadways, is a culture of lawlessness involving all categories of road users, every single one, including the man who driving the Drake yard and so on. Everybody, they don't follow no rule. They got no rule, is lawlessness. So this is the result. What we're seeing there is the result of them lawlessness. Let me bring you Mr. Conway. And I am very upset with this because traffic was there to me. Those of you who know I was there at traffic. And let me say it. And the people who know will know that when I was there at traffic, we were making a significant turnaround in what's going on in terms of lawlessness on the road. Significant. CC?
Paul, you always amaze me, when you talk about, when you're referring to the Attorney General and give him his designation. You always SC, a pause, MP. I wonder if there's a vowel left out there, And then I remember listening to or reading Peter Drucker. And he said, the art of listening is to listen to what isn't being said. The art of listening is to listen to what is being said. Now, this traffic situation is getting worse. Every week, we have fatalities, whether they want to call it an incident or an accident. And the piecemeal effort that they're using isn't making any impact. Nothing whatsoever. And part of it is that they're not properly analyzing the stats. They are cocking the figures. So if your stat is flawed, the action you're going to take will also be flawed. There is need for a holistic approach towards the traffic situation. The traffic chief, for some time now, we haven't heard about him for a long time now. I don't know if he's on annualized vacation or what, but we hearing anything but him. Or if he was electioneering, I don't know. But it's frightening and it's getting worse. It's time that we have a holistic approach. We heard about the former, I think it was British High Commissioner and the team. They were doing some work, but we're not hearing anything about it. Every week is fatality. Every week, whether you call it an accident, an incident, the other day they say one was a mishap, that there need to be a holistic approach. Too many persons are dying. Here's it, a little girl dying, and then they might charge for causing death by dangerous driving. What about motor manslaughter? That the Attorney General had piloted the bill and approved it. What about motor manslaughter? The last time we heard about motor manslaughter is when a policewoman got knocked down in Pearl BV police station, and here they substitute another charge. They go back to causing death by dangerous driving. So they need to fight at all levels to ensure that we bring this madness that is going on the road to some to make so it makes sense. We can't get every week hearing fatal accident, fatal incident, as the case may be. No. Something got to be done. And if, like how when Stevens had a whole sort of thing and they acted continue, well then why does this can't happen to sing? Find somebody else, somebody that person might work. Find something. They gotta be innovative in dealing with this traffic situation, or the carnage will continue.
And I continue to say, as I've said before, this requires an intervention at the highest level. Let them talk with the president. Talk. They talk about Tint. Oh, they're going to tweak the law. Robson, when he been there, good thing they get you the when you talk about things like siren, unauthorized use of siren and flashing light. Imagine something like that. As simple as that, they can't have control over. Tint regulation. Almost every other vehicle you see, well, every other will mean 50%. More than that, unlawful tint. And what is happening? You read an editorial on Friday last year, Stabrook News editorial. They were saying that the Bajan, as a result of the police from the Barbados, Royal any longer, God, in our republic. The Barbados Police Force approached the Prime Minister and put up proposal for Tint to be outlawed. And they are, I think they have done so, are in the process of doing so. And you bet your bottom dollar that is going to be properly enforced in Barbados, because they have professional law enforcement officers. Because no politician is going to call and intervene in a matter like that. They will allow the police to do the work. Police will not listen to any politician who call and intervene. But in Ghana, what we have, by the time some people get the call, can you imagine? I want you to think about this carefully. Not so, on many occasions, no less a person than the president has publicly stated that the unlawful use of sirens and flashing lights will not be tolerated. The president himself made those statements. And drive around and see what happened. Drive around. They talk about tint, the unlawful use of tint. Drive around. Even police vehicles. I saw some release from, I think it's Region 10, Police Region 10. Can you imagine police got briefing to tell police officers that they must remove tint from their vehicle, among other things they're telling them. Imagine that. You got to get instruction class to tell them that. Police not obeying the law. If you're not obeying the law, how can you expect them to enforce the law? Let me tell you all this. And when I looked at the editorial on Friday, Starbuck News, I said I got to make some corrections, right? The thing they claim that the tint regulation in Guyana was implemented following the 2002 jailbreak. You know, they had the Mashramani Day jailbreak where those people escaped from the prison and was maimed for years. That is not so. The tint regulations were implemented long before that. Long before that. And you know how I know that? Because I was the traffic officer when it was implemented. I can't remember the exact year, but it was in the late 90s. And you know, I went to do my research. I went to do my research, and y'all could do it too. That's why we tell you when we talk about these things, don't just take our word for granted. Go and look at it too. I'm gonna find the thing. I did some research, and I got something I wanted to read to you guys so you could understand where I'm coming from. I was a traffic chief when the tint regulation was implemented. As a matter of fact, I had a lot to do with the old arrangement. Here, I found it here. Check AI or check Google, right? I wanted to know the exact year, but I can't find the exact year. I will continue to research. It says, while there have been tint regulations in Ghana for some time, the formal restrictions were passed into law under the Motor Vehicle Road Traffic Act, Chapter 5102. The legislation came about after, listen to this carefully, the legislation came about after an initiative spearheaded by former traffic chief Paul Slow in the late 1990s. Is me they're talking about. Here's a brief timeline of the development of tint regulations in Guyana. Late 1990, then traffic chief Paul Slow launched a campaign against heavily tinted vehicles after the Queen's College Old Students Association complained about illegal activities concealed within minibuses. Let me give you all a little lesson on that. That part is true. I was the traffic chief, and this organization wrote to the president, Chedi Jagan, complaining about activities, illegal activities. You know, in those days, they used to call double up and triple up, where these children were packed like sardines into a vehicle, some adults too, and all sort of lawlessness went on in those vehicles, or alleged to have taken place in those vehicles. The Parent Teachers Association, the ex-student association, wrote a petition to President Jagan, Chedi Jagan. At the time, Larry Lewis was the commissioner. As I've said, I was the traffic chief. And Larry Lewis sent for me as traffic chief to put up a proposal to take on this task. I met with my officers, and we agreed that we are going to recommend that tint be prohibited from all public transportation vehicles. That was our recommendation. Public transportation vehicles meaning hire cars and minibuses. I was later told that when the proposal was put to the president said vehicle is vehicle, prohibited on all motor vehicles. So we came then and we decided we're going to prohibit it for all vehicles. We wrote, it went to Parliament. the regulations was put into place. At the time when the regulations were put in place, Sam Hines was carrying out the functions as Minister of Home Affairs. There was nothing, you see this thing that talking about 67% and 65%, nothing of the sort. When the law came out, and I think the law still stands, I can be corrected here, that what it says, it is very subjective, you know, percentage. It says that no vehicle, I'm paraphrasing here, no vehicle should be so tinted as to prevent a person standing on the outside from seeing and recognizing a person on the inside. And you had a lot of problem with that immediately because it was very subjective. Me is better than you. So one police would say I could see and recognize. The other could say I can't see and I can recognize. You had problems therefore. Then I was transferred from traffic to A Division, 2IC A Division. While at A Division 2IC, I used to receive security magazines from a friend. And the magazine, one day I was sitting in the office there and I was going through the magazine and I saw this device called Tint meter, which we had not known of. I wrote a little thing and got a copy and I sent it to the commissioner. I said, look, there's something called Tint meter where we can now decide on the very objectively what type of what amount of light to be allowed. And then here what happened. I sent it to Lewis as the thing, and then they transfer me back to traffic and I tell I over and over, I had two stints at traffic chief. So when I went back to traffic now, the responsibility was mine now to take up the same thing. And what did we do? There was, in them days, police used to get what you call impact advisory. You had members of the business community and civilians sitting with senior police officers to discuss plans and the way forward. That is how innovative Larry Lewis was. And you had a particular businessman who was real, what we call a police friend. He brought in the first set of tint meters into the country. He brought a set, and we decided now it was for us to decide what level, what percentage of light should be allowed to be penetrated into the vehicle. And I got to work on it. And you know who was with me on that? The man who was the president of the Car and Minibus Drivers Association. You know who was that person? Manzoor Nadir, the last speaker of Parliament, the man who banned the word corruption in Parliament. He was the man, president or chairman, whatever they call it, as the Public Transportation Car and Minibus Drivers Association. I invited him for us to work out what level of penetration should be acceptable. And we brought in several vehicles with tint, and we measure, and we agreed that it should be 65% light penetration as measured on the tint meter. We agreed. And then I wrote to the commissioner wrote to Gadraj for this thing to be brought into legal, give some legal impact, this 65%. That was never done. So this thing we hear the walk about that was 65%. That was never, ever done. And the intention at the time, I tell you, I spearheaded the discussion, you know. The intention at the time was that the minister would have allowed for vehicles that were already in the system with tint that did not comply with the regulation. Give them, I think it was 3 months to put themselves in order. And we had said that if at the end of 3 months, maybe he can extend it for another 3, but he couldn't go beyond that. The intention was never to allow for a minister to get permission to waive tint. Never, ever, ever part of the discussion. Never, ever part of the discussion. And therein, after then, the thing get corrupted. Because when the law was actually, when the regulation actually came into being, it gave the minister the authority to waive, so he can get a tint permit from the minister. And what we discussed then too is that vehicles that were already in the system, as I've said, we'll give them this time, but vehicles that were coming into the system had to comply with the regulations. They were not going to be allowed off the wharf unless they complied with the tint regulations. I remember this thing very, very well. And then we went so far where we talk about tint. There were 3 types of tints, basically. I'm not talking about the density. 3 types. You had what we call the factory tint. And there were 2 types of factory tint. You have the one where the tint is in the glass, is part of the glass, so you can't take off anything. You have to change the old glass. Then you have the one that the vehicle came from the factory with the tint paste on and that could have been removed. And then you have the third category, where a vehicle came without any tint. They took it to one of these workshops and had tint put on the glass. We went into this thing in great detail. And it saddens me to see the level of corruption that has come into this thing and the inability of the police to enforce what is supposed to be a very simple regulation, a very simple regulation. How these vehicles get fitness. Well, this is some dark. And let me say it because I've said it was absolutely a no on the front windscreen. You could have had a visor. I can't remember the width of the visor from the top. I think 4 inches or 6 inches, something like that. That's it. That's it. The windscreen had to be clear. But now, tint all over the place. And despite the fact that the president, no less a person than the president, the commissioner, and all of them, somebody remind me 6 inches, and all of them talking about this thing. The thing is so corrupt that they can't effectively enforce. Imagine siren outside a private vehicle and all that. What were the private vehicles? You think the ordinary man get a little cargball bus or something and get it? No. It's those who are considered privileged. You see them with the 4x4 and the Prado and so on. Them are the ones who get the thing, and that is why it cannot be enforced. So, folks, when you're talking about tint, I know everything that I spearheaded everything. As the thing says here, it was a traffic chief, right? In the late 1990s, then traffic chief Paul Slow launched a campaign against heavily tinted vehicles. That is true. I am the person who spearheaded that and had significant effect. But then what happened? You move and then all other things start to happen. And it is scary, you know. Let me, before I bring in Mr. Conway, let me tell you, as the Barbados police told the Prime Minister, it is scary that you're standing there performing your duty and a vehicle pulls up alongside you. You can't see who the inside, you can't know what's going on. A man might loading a gun to point it, you can't know. And even if you're not a police, you're driving, some vehicle pulls up alongside you, you can't see and recognize, you can't even see, much less recognize anybody in the vehicle. It is scary. And let me say this. When that law or that regulation came into being, right, I was going at UG at the time. I had the darkest tint on my Maurice Marina. Darkest. People know me fancy Maurice Marina, darkest tint. And the regulations were to go into effect on the April the 4th, 98 or 99, I can't remember the exact year. And Larry Lewis, I will never forget that. Say, hey, April 4th is All Fools Day. I ain't implementing nothing on All Fools Day. So this, while the law is there, you will not start to do anything on it until the day after, the 2nd of April. Forget about All Fools Day. Those were my instructions. I had the darkest tint in my car, and the day before, I sat down and I took everything out, and none of my cars since has had anything like illegal tint or so. None. Some of the car come with what they call privacy glass at the back. Yeah, nothing. And to see that the police officers, when I say officers are not people ranks, police officers, gazetted officers, are driving around the place with heavily tinted vehicles and no permission and all that type of thing. So how are you going to enforce? Let me bring in Mr. Conway, man. See, I've said a lot about the traffic and tint because I think I was intimately involved in the process. So I think I should share that with our listeners. Over to you.
So true, you know. I was there, and I know you were the person who spearheaded the thing with directions from Larry Lewis. I know what that I was a senior officer then. But the thing is, tint has now become normal. If you check 20 vehicles passing, 19 get tint. Look at the windscreen. I traveled in a vehicle that day. Was so tinted that you could hardly recognize somebody in the vehicle. It's so dark inside there. But that is the thing that is going on. And the police too, they're not setting the example. All the police, even they mark police vehicle tint in the windscreen thing. You're not seeing, you can't recognize the police inside there. And even the shops selling the thing. We talk about siren and flashing lights. The the shop selling the siren, the shop selling the flashing lights, and even what the president saying they should ban them from coming in the country, or they should ban the shops from selling them. But it's talk, and still more talk. If it lies there, enforce the bloody law. And the enforcement must start from the police, the law enforcement people. But if the law enforcement doing as they like, what do you expect members of the public would do? Hmm? So unless they really enforce it, it has really gone out of hand, completely out of hand. Completely out of hand. All the vehicles get tint. Tint, tint, tint. Tint at the front windscreen. You can't see nobody. You can't recognize nobody. You can't recognize police and all the police vehicle. I can't recall when I saw a police vehicle that isn't tinted. It's there. But the law is there, but we're not enforcing the law. We just left it there. So it's complete lawlessness.
I saw a comment here for one of our students. Let me clarify because he saw a magistrate. He said, well, let me see if I can find the comment. A magistrate using flashing light and all of that. The magistrate on the quarantine using flashing light on quarantine, travel to Georgetown. So it is. It's not allowed. It's unlawful. The law says that emergency vehicles, and the law describes and defines emergency vehicles as police vehicle for the fire service, and ambulances. Those are the three categories of vehicles that are allowed to carry emergency warning appliances. No other vehicle. So all them things we see, minister vehicle get them thing wrong unless the vehicle is owned by the police. I hear not so long ago, Ben, same scooter should Ben say he would go to parliament for allow to certain the diplomats and the and certain business people to get to use flashing light and emergency warning. Never went. That was a stupid talk. Never went. Because he said, well, they got water. If you got to go someplace, leave early. Or in the case of some people, I know that they might request of the traffic for escort. And if you have people available, you escort. The diplomats and so on are escorted. But it's lawlessness. It's lawlessness you get around the place. And let me tell you this. When I was stationed in Borbies, and many people here perhaps can relate to that, and West Demerara too, not only Borbies. I had Borbies in particular, I drive me to town. I drove, either I driving myself or the driver driving me with the police car at the speed limit. And dare the person to fly past me. Let me tell you, dare the person to fly past me. On one occasion, a particular magistrate who was presiding in Georgetown over a very controversial case, so took it upon himself to fly past my vehicle. Fly past. And when he reached at one of the stations along the way, he was detained. He was stopped. And when I went there, I spoke to him in very harsh terms. So we have to set examples. You can't be speeding, tell me late for court. I said, that ain't nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with the law. Comply with the law. You're an officer of the law. Comply with the law. Come on, straight. As a matter of fact, don't let me say it here now. Don't let me say it. The same magistrate get the files. Don't let me say it here now. So that is what you have, lawlessness. And I end this part by saying, if the president of the country has pronounced on this issue, and both instruct actually for a particular action or actions to be taken, and nothing has happened, what do you expect? Enough talk. Big, according to Nyland Welch, used to say big lamp, no oil. That was Nyland Welch talk. Big lamp and no oil is just talk to impress some people. But as our busy signal said, 1 more year upon them, 5 more years upon them, that is what going to happen. That is what is going to happen. Now let me move on. Those students who were in classes or in class on Friday would have remembered us speaking about an incident, a very disturbing incident. As a matter of fact, I remember saying that it has spoiled by afternoon when I listened to the voice note of someone complaining that an 8-year-old was raped and sodomized by an adult male, and that the police weren't doing anything. And they claim that the police weren't doing anything because the person had contact with a controversial minister of the government who himself has been accused of all type of things. Police issued a release, which I believe was in response to the statement we made on this show on Friday afternoon. But as is customary, what I write is sheer nonsenseness, right? So let me read what the police wrote. Crime alert, that is what they said. Well, let they write the crime alert, but the thing is crime alert. The Guyana police force is actively seeking a businessman, quote unquote businessman, from Sophia Greater Georgetown, who is reportedly avoiding a rape charge involving a minor. Timothy Fraser, a 32-year-old resident of Seafield, Sophia, squatting area, was apprehended on September the 6th at approximately 8:30 hours and detained on charges of rape of a child under 16 years. Following his arrest, the suspect remained in custody for approximately 6 days due to his inability to meet the $200,000 bail requirement. The bail amount was subsequently reduced to facilitate his pretrial release on September the 15th. The case file was delayed pending the forensic interview report. Upon receipt of the aforementioned report, the case was filed on September the 16th, following legal counsel, with instructions for the suspect to appear in court the following day. However, the suspect failed to appear in court on September 17th. Efforts to serve a summons on the suspect at his Sophia residence on Friday were unsuccessful. A police wanted bulletin is currently being prepared, as indications suggest he may have traveled to the interior. That is a police release. Well, I see so much of stupidness in this release. I would talk a real countryman. I see so much of stupidness in this release. First of all, first paragraph, the police is actively seeking this businessman. What actively seeking the businessman I mean? You have been walking around, driving around, going to your resident and looking for you. You're actively seeking this businessman. And then they say, who is reportedly avoiding a rape charge involving a minor? You're actively seeking this man. What were you doing to take? You had him in custody. You had him in custody. You say you're avoiding. He was in custody. This is a matter being handled at Kitty Police Station by a female sergeant. I suspect, because of Sophia matter, my suspicion is that they may have people who deal with that type of matter at Kitty. So yeah, Kitty dealing with the matter, right? So then the self-raised, this man, was apprehended on the 6th of September the 6th at approximately 8 hours, very precise. 6th of September at approximately, well, not very, fairly precise, 8:30 hours, and detained on charges of rape. Not alleged rape, He detained on charges of rape of a child under 16. But here's the kicker. Following his arrest, the suspect remained in custody for approximately 6 days. He was arrested and he remained in custody for 6 days due to his inability to meet the $200,000 bail requirement. The bail amount was subsequently reduced to facilitate his pretrial release on September 15th. Conrad, I am been to school land. But if this man was apprehended on September 6th and he remained in custody for 6 days, are we going to bail on the 15th, between the 6th and the 15th is 6 days? Are you telling me that my sum's wrong, man? Y'all tell me that I can't count and I'm going to accept. Because they're saying that this man was arrested, they say apprehended on the 6th of September at 8:30 in the morning and detained on charges of rape of a child under 16. And then they say he remained in custody for approximately 6 days due to his inability to meet the $200,000 bail requirement. I don't know if it's a bail requirement. The bail amount was subsequently reduced to facilitate its pretrial on the 6th and the 15th. So he was in custody based on what they tell me from the 6th to the 15th, and they said that it's 6 days. Y'all help me out here, student, please. Your teacher need help. Help, help, SOS, save our soul. Satan, only son, save me. How you get the man arrested on the 6th? He remained in custody for 6 days, and you release him on the 15th. That reminds me of a puzzle. It reminds me of a puzzle. You know, I have these little anecdote and thing. A man went to town. Back in the day, you had a program with Christopher Dean called Quiz Catch. And one of the things that caught people, he said, a man went to town on Tuesday. He spent overnight and returned on Tuesday. How was that possible? Student, you have that one. A man went to town on Tuesday. He overnighted and he returned on Tuesday. How was that possible? I'm waiting for your answer. People like Barlet and never be the bright. People like Porcy and all them. The man went to town on Tuesday, he spent overnight, and he returned on Tuesday. Tell me how that happened. Yeah, so they say 50 days. The man, 6 days. 6 days. And then here what they say, man. Here what they say. Upon receipt of the aforementioned report, the case was filed on the 16th. So they released it on the 15th. They get this report where they talk about this forensic interview report. They filed the case on the 16th following legal counsel, and the legal counsel instructed them with instructions for the suspect to appear in court the following day. So what happened to this bail that this man was released on? This bail did not tell him what he had to go to court. The legal counsel had to tell you all when he, no, not the following Tuesday, man, Leroy. Yeah, listen to it carefully. Listen to me carefully, man. The man went to town on Tuesday. He spent overnight and he returned on Tuesday. Not the following Tuesday. Oh, Eric Shepard is the bright boy. Yeah, look at Eric. Yeah, Eric Bright. Come to the front of the class. The man had a horse named Tuesday. So when he's here, it's not the day they're talking about. He went to town on his horse named Tuesday. He spent overnight and he returned on his horse named Tuesday. Yes, Eric. Well done. Well done. Come to the front of the class and be there to your teacher. Yeah. So they're telling us that you have to get instructions from the suspect. Instruction from the counsel for the suspect to appear in court. What nonsenseness is that? You say you released him bail. I didn't say the amount, but I know he was released on $20,000 bail. He was initially placed on $200,000, and they couldn't find the $200,000 with the claim. They reduced it from $200,000 to $20,000. And my information is that as a result of the intervention of a minister of the government. So they reduced them from $200,000 to $20,000. So when he was released, when he was put on bail, what were the conditions? Where you have to go to court or you have to come back to the station? But then you're telling me that you have to get instructions for the suspect to appear in court the following day. What nonsense is that? What nonsense? And then they say, however, the suspect failed to appear in court on September the 17th, right? Efforts to serve a summons on the suspect at his Sophia residence on Friday were unsuccessful. Here again, nonsenseness. The man on bail, you have to go to court Friday the 17th. So what summons you serving on him on the 17th? This man is supposed to go to court on the 17th. And you're telling me now efforts to serve a summons on the suspect at his Sophia residence on Friday were unsuccessful? What nonsense is that? If you claim that the man failed to show up in court, the man failed to show up in court or failed to show up as stipulated in the bail, whether it's court or the police station, what is the next step? Summons? How is you summoning this man? How is it that you are effort to serve a summons on the suspect? Huh? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. You summons me on the 17th to go to court on the 17th? That is what you're telling people? I would have thought, yes, Umi, I would have thought that if it is the man was placed on bail to go to court on the 17th, the bail receipt, the thing got to say when he got to court, either got to court or come back to the station. If he had to go to court on the 17th and he did not appear in court as the bail stipulated, then the thing is to apply for a warrant for his arrest. And similarly, if he had to report to the police station and he did not report, you're going to get him to file the charge. You don't have to have him present to file the charge. Go ahead and file the charge and apply for his arrest. So I don't know what summons you're talking about. So you're suggesting to me that a man who is accused of raping a young 13-year-old, that you're summoning him to go to court. It's not arrest and taken to court. You're summoning him to go to court. You're summoning him to go to court. They write all of these nonsense. You know why? Because you have people, as I've said previously, in this corporate propaganda unit, they don't know anything about policing. None. And they have carte blanche to write and to do whatever they want to do. That's what they have. So nobody's pilots, nobody directs them and so on. But this statement is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs. And 2 of the paragraphs are one-line paragraphs. So call them 6 paragraphs. It is riddled with so much nonsenseness that I don't know where they are going. But let me bring in Mr. Conway. Mr. Conway is much wiser than I am. And maybe he can explain some of these things that I cannot explain. I must concede that. He's much wiser than me, more experience in policing. Maybe he can explain that which I cannot explain to you. CC, make sense out of this. Make this make sense.
All right, let me put things in proper context. This is a case, allegation, where this person raped and buggered an 8-year-old girl. They're saying they're covering up and they're saying a person under 16 years old. But the facts we got that the child was 8 years old. And they placed him, that's the accused, on $20,000 bail to appear in court, and the person didn't appear. They subsequently, they said they went on a Friday to serve a summons. I know you could charge me, and then you're going to apply for summons to me. Something in right there. And as you pointed out, Paul, arrested at 8:30 hours on the 6th of September. They say they kept them for six days. But on the 15th, they send the person on bail. So 6 from 15, mileage addition, subtraction, is that the person wasn't in there for 6 years. 9 days at least the person was in custody before placed on bail. And here they're saying they were placed on bail because they couldn't get a forensic interview report. I wonder if there is a forensic interview report. You take 9 days to get forensic interview report. Serve with someone, and I said they're currently preparing a wanted bulletin. Currently preparing a wanted bulletin. Now they get wanted bulletin, they're currently preparing a wanted bulletin. And then from our investigation, a detective sergeant was dealing with a matter. A detective sergeant is one who recently get a 3-stripe after that nightmare promotion. I don't know if they wanted them. But the thing is, when we look in deep in it, the management of the investigation, where was the detective officer, what we call the DDO, the person who is in charge of crime? Where was that person as it relates to the investigation, the management of the investigation? You got a sergeant. This is a report where a 8-year-old raped and sodomized. You're telling me the detective officer shouldn't pay any interest in it? Or the divisional commander shouldn't get any kind of input into it? An 8-year-old, and it's a rape you're dealing with, that you left it to a sergeant And the sergeant must do she own thing about the place that get the person there for 9 days, for at least but 9 days. Huh? Breach all the thing in terms of the bail when person must be granted bail. Section 7.1 of the Bail Act. Breach the Constitution. Article 139.4. Breach the conditional bail standing order number 74. I'm not going to go into details, but I say that the senior people at station has got to look into these matters, these serious matters, especially rape on an 8 girl. Alarms bell got to ring, and somebody senior, apart from that sergeant, they should have taken this thing in hand. Let me tell you a little story what happened to me. I was an assistant superintendent, and I got transferred to A division then as the second in command. No, sorry, as the officer of number 2 subdivision Romvelt, where it's boasted at Romvelt, but responsible for East La Penitence, the outposts, Providence, Grove, and all the stations on East Bank right up to Timeri, Long Creek. And whilst I was taking over on the second day, this man who was chairman of the Police Service Commission, Donald Robinson, called me about 1 o'clock a day. Said, Mr. Conway, I have a client in your lockups there. Could you tell me what's the position with him? And I was busy taking. I said, all right, don't know, but I find out. He said, young officer, you don't have a grip of your situation? You don't know who is in your lockups? He said, like you don't have a grip of your situation. Here is it. The chairman of the Police Service Commission telling me that I don't have a grip of my situation there. And at the time I was expecting promotion. I was ASP for about 4 years, and was November and December was promotion. So I said, sorry, I'm going to find out. And I found out and I let him know. And I made a decision then that every day I must have a prison state on my desk telling me the prisoners, the name of the prisoners there, the offense there, what day they were arrested, who arrested, and all kind of thing, that I always have a prison. Because it helped me to manage the subdivision. Because I will know that, hey, a female prisoner is in the lockups and there's no female police at the station. So we open up myself to a whole set of things to happen. And I used to tell them, man, as long as female at the station, automatically all the male police don't toss him in. As if I'm there too, I turn a toss him on. And then you see a juvenile at the station, and you wonder what the juvenile is doing there. Couldn't you send the juvenile away to the custody parents? Or you see a man in there for robbery on the arms. And when you check the report, there's no report of robbery on the arms. So the prisoner state is important. It tells you a story and it helps you to manage your area. And I want to know what the subdivision officer, Portion Child Station, or even the commander doing about it. Here is it, an 8-year-old get raped, get buggered, and then you hear a man sent away on $20,000 bail to go to court. Why wasn't he escorted? You don't get permission. You get the approval of the DPP, because all those files got to go to DPP. DPP got to give permission before you could discharge. Here is it. You have the man there. You have the file there. You have the approval from the DPP to proceed with the charge, and you send him on bail. That person should have been escorted and taken to the court and let the court decide on bail. And then I hear they're talking about was $200,000 bail and it reduced to $20,000. What nonsense is that? As Paul mentioned, maybe it's political interference. So it's a set thing, $200,000, and then you could negotiate, do negotiation, and you go down to $20,000. This whole thing is bad for management from top right down. from top right down. A 8-year-old, a 8-year-old, and then the man sent for $20,000 bail. Nonsense. And then they hustling for cover up. And the more they write, the more they write nonsense, the more they try to cover up, and they're making a horrible attempt to cover up their faults. What they should have done here, yes, we screw up here, and we're going to put systems in place to make sure that things like that doesn't happen. That somebody would have to feel the squeeze. Perhaps the sergeant or somebody there should be able to feel the squeeze, feel the heat, that they won't do any nonsense again like that.
Well put, well put. You know, and again, I agree with you fully. A prisoner state is indispensable. You know, Brigham, where I spent 3 years or so, you got to make sure, because Brigham is the main, we used to be then the main lockup for all over the place. People bring in, especially people from CID headquarters, people from all over the place. They bring people, they put to them, Brigham, and then they forget them. I had a daily prisoner state. And not only cosmetic, I went through it. I went through it to see when the person was brought into custody, what is the offense? Very important, because let me tell you all this, commanders and officers who are listening, police like abbreviate. So when you come, you're going to see a man came into custody on this date for RUA. That is robbery under arms, abbreviated RUA, robbery under arms. Now, when you investigate, because I used to go down to the lockups, I used to go down and interact with the prisoner. I never asked them what they brought you in for, because you never get the right answer. You ask them, why is what they say you do. Proper English, what did they say, or what are they saying that you did? Right? Because once you tell you what you do, you ain't do nothing. Never do nothing. No, so I ain't do nothing. What did they say that you do? What they say you do? Then they're going to level up with you and so on. And in many cases, not no damn robbery on arms, but they book them as robbery on arms with the belief that nobody's going to release them, because robbery under arms is a serious, serious offense. And they're going to keep them there, and they're going to release them. The next thing I encountered when I was at Brigham, you had prisoners from the interior would come out. They bring them out. In those days, the interior headquarters was at Evelary, the same building with the DPP's chamber. And once they bring them, they get a prisoner, they come out. You are the custodian that bring them there. They just forget. They don't get concerned with you. I remember on one occasion, a particular commander, he called me and said, look, this man, 72 hours, is about to finish. What is the position? He got him, oh, all right, all right. I said, let me tell you something. If by 4 o'clock this afternoon, you don't come and resolve this matter, I am going to bring the prisoners, or I'm going to have the prisoners escorted to your office. You're going to keep them in your office. You're going to keep them in your office. He believed I was bluffing. He believed I was bluffing. When the afternoon came, and I get them, I think it was somebody came who was the number 1 subdivision officer, take them to headquarters and put them at the commander office there. I ain't taking on that goodie. Oh God, he begged me to keep them until the next morning he can sort it out. Because why? Why? Well, if anything were to happen to them prisoners, you who have them in custody responsible. You, the officer there, but they bring them and they dump them on you. Right? So prisoner state is very, very important. Very important. You got to see who the prisoners are. And not just check in anything. Are you here? Let them tell you who is the victim. Let me see the crime, the crime book. Let me see to confirm. Other than that, you end up in trouble. And that is part of the problem you get now. People don't check. I know, again, I say don't blame, in many cases, I don't blame the officers. Because they're not exposed to the type of training. They're not exposed to senior people who have had the experience explaining to them and telling them why this thing should be done a particular way. That is why many of them listen to this program. And that is why we'll continue. Because this is the only medium they get to get the information. Because even if, let me understand this thing clearly, that if they were to organize a formal session at the evening, who can tell them about these things? Who? People who don't know? Is the blind leading the blind? The blind leading the blind. So you got to understand, but this thing is very important. This is the case because they said that in the process of issuing a wanted bulletin, that since Friday night or Saturday, we haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's out, but I have not seen it yet. I have not seen it. And I believe all because of, we said, of this political influence. Because they're saying that is the reason why the man was kept there, why the man received $20,000 bail. And somebody asked the question, you had him 6 days or 9 days in the lockup, 9 days without him being charged? That's a total violation, 9 days without him being charged. And you want to tell me no senior person in the division observed that and to take the appropriate action? New minister, Honorable Waldron, these are some of the issues that you have to look into. And you can't have this hands-on attitude like your predecessor, Mr. Shoot and Scoot Ben, right? Yeah, again, I say you have to make the distinction. I'm sure you're capable of making a distinction between policy and operational matters. I'm sure you're capable of doing that. But you have got to sit back and make this clear distinction and use your influence to bring about change. Because I noted, I'm going to talk about that the next day, I noted that perhaps you have not started as well as you should. And I say this because I read somewhere, I'll pull it up, where you're talking about crime being reduced by how much percent and how much percent and how much percent. We're going to talk about that the next time. As the saying goes, we are going to shine you next time when it comes to that. Yeah, you have this thing. And then the next thing, to move on, the drugs continue. You know, as I said at the beginning, it used to be let the blow, blow, blow. Now it's let the cocaine flow. Now in the 4,400 kilogram. But I also look, it has been reported now. Yesterday, report, news source. Suspect in custody over attempt to load 146 pounds cocaine on KLM flight at the Chedijagan International Airport. That is yesterday been reported. Hear what it says. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Agency has announced the arrest of one person after its agents disrupted an attempt to load 146.9 pounds of cocaine onto an Amsterdam-bound KLM flight at the Chedijagan International Airport, Timeri. The cocaine was found in 53 plastic wrap parcels stashed at the bottom of a unit load device, which is used to load cargo and luggage onto the aircraft. Details of the suspect were not released, but Conway said its agent acted on information received and carried out operation at the Chedijagan International Airport on Saturday as the KLM aircraft was being prepared for its departure. Then they tell you last year, 3 staffers at the airport were arrested and charged during an attempt to load a suitcase packed with cocaine onto a London-bound British Airways flight. Conway has been conducting a number of operations to curb drug trafficking with the assistance of the local and international counterparts. So here we get here, look, this is the picture of the cocaine. You know, if you go to the airport, you will see they get these metal containers where they're going to put your bags or they put stuff in and they move from the one area to the plane. So it look, the whole bottom of this thing is lined with cocaine. Lined with cocaine. That's what they get. Well, let me say this. This is clearly a well-organized operation. So they arrest one man here. Yeah. Kudos to them for arresting the one man. But you think the one man alone involved in such what appears to be such an elaborate operation? You think a one man in charge? Where it come from? Where the cocaine come from? How it reach to the airport? How we get past all the security arrangement to get into the container? And when you get into the container there, this would have been the last step to put it on board the plane. And I don't believe any one person would have been doing that. You can't tell me that one person alone can be responsible for loading stuff from this container onto the plane. Cocaine got to flow, that's the whole thing. And I would hope that they do much wider investigation. And here, let me say this before bringing Mr. Conway. I was taught, as I tell you all, I had good training, that in some cases, perhaps this would have been one such case, where you do, if you really want to get to the bottom as to who the people are, because I saw a statement being made by somebody the other day that you don't get to the, perhaps you would want to consider doing a controlled delivery. Perhaps you want to do a controlled delivery. In other words, you know that this plane was being loaded with cocaine to go to Netherlands or wherever you say it being prepared to wherever it was going. Maybe, I'm making this recommendation to you, maybe you can allow it to go. Maybe you have alerted your counterparts that, look, this thing coming through. This thing coming through. And maybe at that end, they would have again control, set up things to see who receiving and all this type of thing. So you could get to the bottom of it. But it's good to celebrate the interception at Timeri, Jagan International Airport. But I don't know that will allow you to get to the root of this thing. I don't know that you can get to the root by intercepting the 50-something package, 146.9 pounds. In many agencies, many law enforcement agencies, they do controlled delivery. We said the same thing about things coming in barrels and so on. You make big report, you custom checking the barrel, found unlawful items, guns, and that sort of thing, marijuana, and so on. Why not do a controlled delivery so you can know the recipient, the ultimate recipient, and that might give you further information to disrupt these networks. But you jump up and you're making big noise. And I hear the minister, in this case, talking about border security. We can talk about that at some other time. But again, this is no small operation. The fact that the cocaine came from wherever it came from, they don't manufacture cocaine in Guyana. And we know Region 1 is a cocaine capital. Barima Winey is a cocaine capital of Guyana. Right? We don't know where this came from, but it's a cocaine capital. Right? And one would have thought that you're going to do something more to try to get to the people. You arrest a one man, even at Timeri, where this thing was, where it was intercepted. I don't know that the one man can be responsible for all of this. You arrest a one man, we hope you get information from him. I'm bringing Mr. Conway. CC, they have already about the concept of controlled delivery.
It could never be a one-man thing. And as you mentioned, but then sometimes control the delivery. I don't know if they counterparts trust them too. There's another story. If the counterparts trust them because there's so much of corruption here about the place. But it can't be no one-man thing. And then what made the cameras about the place there? What happened with the cameras about the place there? And what happened with some vehicle or something have to bring it inside there? Nobody in checking. It can't be no one man thing. And they gotta be people from inside gotta be involved also. And then the minister hosting for tech glory, something praising the security, something more border cooperation and all kind of nonsense. As I said, we can get involved in it. It's no one man show. And there have to be others involved in it. And perhaps the cameras were blinking, the cameras were blinking, so they didn't pick up anything. Or then again, who really operating the cameras? The same cameras are still going to replace boots on the ground, perhaps, and they're not thinking. And what about their boots on the ground? It's so much to think about it. No one man. And as you rightly say, Paul, maybe if they are properly organized, they can do controlled delivery to really get at the source, But in this country, what's going on now, drugs got to flow, you got to get fire, you got to get debts, and the corruption got to thing. Corruption, debts, fire, and drugs. And like drugs up on the top of the list now.
Yeah. Those things are there all the time. Now, somebody asked a question about the GDF helicopter crash. There's an article in today's Stabrook News about it. I don't think we'll have time to go into it today, but we're going to deal with it at some stage. But as we're on the drugs beat, talking about drugs, I saw an article yesterday. Police seized guns, ammo, cocaine, cannabis during BV operation. Now, I'm BV man. BV is short for Better for Wacton, a village 9 miles from Georgetown on the east coast of Demerara. To the east of BV is Triumph, and to the west of BV is LBI, Labon Intention, I from BV. So that is not why I'm reading this article, but certain things have piqued my interest. We like to teach. It says here, the police in Regional Division 4C on Friday uncovered a cache of narcotics, ammunition, and cash during an intelligence-led operation at Bedford-Walton, East Coast, Demerara. The operation, conducted between 12:05 hours and 14 hours on September the 19th, began with a search of a corner shop at Sideline Dam, Bedford-Walton, owned by a 42-year-old. That put him name, I'll call him. According to police, the search unearthed a large plastic sealer, plastic wraps, and several transparent and colored Ziploc bags. No illegal substances were found at the shop. Acting on further intelligence, police rank moved to a nearby plot of land east of the shop, which was covered in thick vegetation. There, they discovered a white salt bag hidden at the root of a palm tree and a small white bucket. Upon inspection, the police found that the salt bag contained several transparent plastic bags filled with leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis. The bucket contained 3 boxes with 60 live rounds of 7.62 by 39 ammunition and 1 box with 50 live 9mm rounds. A quantity of creamish rock-like substance suspected to be cocaine and $78,500 cash. That's a guy, but I suspect it's Guyana currency. The suspected narcotics and ammunition were taken to the Sparna police station along with this man, I call him name, who denied any knowledge of the items when questioned. The police said that the suspected cocaine weighed 785 grams, while the suspected cannabis amounted to 3,895 grams. The items were lodged as evidence, and the man and any name had been, and the man has been profiled as investigation continued. Interesting. They say they largely got the ammunition and the cocaine and the drugs, and the man has been profiled. That's what the police saying during the course of the investigation. But I see a lot wrong with this thing, I mean, let me warn Mr. Commander, Mr. Crime Chief, another commissioner. The commissioner, you go talk till your mouth go dry. He can understand and he can process what is being said. The minister, new minister, lawyer, and magistrate will definitely understand. Given what they are saying, they searched the shop and they found no illegal substance were found at the shop, or no illegal substances. That's what they say. Were found at the shop. But then they searched a neighbor yard, right? They say they acting on further intelligence. You get into the stage where you say the police and intelligence in the same sentence, some wrong. Oxymoronic, I think is the right word, some wrong. No illegal substance were found in the shop. Acting on further intelligence, police rank moved to a nearby plot of land east of the shop, which was covered in thick vegetation. There they discovered a white salt bag, hidden at the root of the palm tree with a whitish bucket. When it charged the bucket, it had cocaine, it had ammunition. Now tell me, I'm interested to know how you are linking this man to this. They have actual possession if you found it on his person. Tell you all you lie, and you have constructive possession. If you found it at the place where he has control, you can prove that he and only he has or had control over this place where this thing was found. So they might generally say he didn't have actual possession. He not had it funny, he not had it in the shop, but he had control. He had control, right? So I don't know. Maybe you have other evidence, and we say these things to say to you that matters like these, you require maybe scientific evidence. So you say you find this thing in some yard, right? You find it in a yard. You say a yard with thick vegetation. in a bucket and say, so how you linking this thing to this man? I really want to know, I really can't. Then the man deny, which I surprised that you asked the man deny. Because in cases like this, you're going to hear the man admit it and say it's he own and all them things. He's doing a little hustle. That's a normal thing. But how do you now link this cocaine found in a yard with thick vegetation and the ammunition and so on to this man who you all arrest? I am not defending anyone. I'm talking about the law. How do you do that? It can be done, but how do you do that? You have to have a lot of evidence. Yes, DNA evidence, fingerprint evidence. You got to get a lot of evidence to link him to it. So I don't know where that's going. So the big release y'all putting out, we'll try to big up yourself. And let me tell the minister, as I am on it, we talk about the figures you're calling about serious crimes and all that. Just want you to know that the cocaine found at Timeri, the 100 and something pound cocaine found at Timeri, and these drugs and them things are not considered serious crime. Eh? Minister, those things in the reporting, they are not considered serious crime. So be advised, be guided accordingly. Let me bring in CC to obviously how they're gonna link this man to these drugs found in a yard nearby.
Well, to prove possession, there are two aspects: actual or constructive possession. Actual, you have it on your person. Constructive is elsewhere under your control. That's under your control. And also, I always remember my good friend Compton Richards. I haven't seen him for a while. Attorney at law when he was a police legal advisor. He used to talk about the mental aspect of possession. You know of the existence of the stuff and your intention to treat it as your own. The mental aspect of it, the physical and the mental aspect of possession. And I'm here to talking about, you mentioned it, Paul, forensic. It calls for forensic investigation. But they get a person who did, I think, 4 years or so in Russia, and she there in charge of training that she ain't get no experience. Instead of she did the forensic lab or somewhere there. And I did forensic science with the FBI. I was a certificate, proud, signed by Janet Reno, who was the Attorney General, and Louis Freeze, who was the head of the FBI. I'm proud of it, but I'm not a forensic expert, but I know a bit about forensic science. And in simple definition, forensic science is the application of scientific principle to criminal investigation. I repeat, the application of scientific principle to criminal investigation. I won't go far in the further details. And how they use the word profile, that they profile a man. Just like how the Borbis Commando, they say, hey, that they profiling people, that they profiling people in Borbis. So they gotta be careful. So if they profiling this man, I know what I mean by profiling. I know the law gives you the authority that when you're doing the course of investigation, you can take fingerprints, you could take measurements, you could take photographs and other parts of persons during the course of the investigation. But if you're in charge of a person, you got to destroy them or give them back those particulars. So I know what if that's what you mean by when you say profiling, but profiling gets another connotation that you got to be careful when you say you are profiling people. So this thing, I don't know how to go proof of possession. It's either actual or constructive. And I ain't see any one of them fit into you go in some place with high vegetation and you see these articles there and you seize them. I don't know how you're going to collect them because there got to be a connection. You got to show whether he had actual or constructive possession. And also the mental aspect of possession is also important.
Yeah, well said, my brother, well said. I see one of the somebody said recent possession. There's something different. Recent possession is something different from actual or constructive possession. Right? A different concept. So we're not going to that now. But you know what omitted to mention when we talk about this child that was killed at Porica on Friday. It's only Tuesday the child had celebrated her birthday. I made a note, I now remember. Only Tuesday before the child celebrated her birthday. And then I saw too on a little while, some time ago, some Venezuela biker charged with causing death by dangerous driving killed a pedestrian at crossing. A Venezuelan biker. Yeah, what license is he using? What license was he using? Would they investigate all of that? Was he using a Venezuelan license? If so, was it permissible? I don't know, right? Or has he acquired a Guyana license? I don't know, right? I don't know. But let me tell you all this, right? I can read this one. You know, we got new ministers, including a new minister of education. Then I call Priya. Priya got to Labor, get a new minister of education. I think it's Sonia Parag. A man wrote on social media yesterday. I said, I read it. He said, well. What does education come to in Guyana? I heard the new minister of education said she's going to try her utmost best to give the education sector what it deserves. Great. But since I was in primary school, I learned that you cannot say by utmost best. You can either try your best or you can try your utmost. But to say you can try your utmost best is being redundant. It is like saying I will do my best. I don't know what people know these days. Imagine the Minister of Education. We all make mistakes, but them things like that is beefsteak. You clear, we got to always remember Larry Lewis, CC. You, Larry Lewis as commissioner, because they reverse back and return back. And you dare, Larry Lewis, embarrass you in front of everybody. Everybody. Their local government, Priya got it, local government, thank for the correction. Labour get Kioma Griffith, Nako Peloriju, thanks for the correction. You understand? A minister of education talking about utmost best. And when we say these things, they believe you're picking. You're not picking, we are seeking perfection. That's how you aim for the sky, you might fall something a little up there. But oh God, you're starting at so low levels. And as I said, with the new Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Onij Waldron, you have a very low bar to cross, a very low bar to jump. So you should do very well. Because Ben set the bar so low, if you have what I suspect or what it takes to run a Ministry of Home Affairs, it shouldn't be difficult for you to rise above what is there. It should not be difficult, but we gave you some advice on Friday. We hope you're going to eat it. Now, let me come to the issue relating to the deployment of military assets around Venezuela and so on. The American has deployed military assets to intercept drug smuggling boats. I think up to now, 2 or 3 were blown out the waters, and three. First one, 11 died. I think the second one, they said 3 people died, and then the third one, another 3 people died. Now, it has been reported in Trinidad newspaper, I think it's yesterday or this morning, Venezuelan Minister of Defense, Valdemir Padrino Lopez, announced earlier today that the Venezuelan military will be moving closer to Trinidad and Tobago to combat what he claims as criminal acts occurring within territory close to the Gulf of Paria. Now, that is a stretch of water that separates the 2 countries. Speaking about the Venezuelan military movement during a televised address to citizens on Sunday, this yesterday, Padrino, who previously warned the country of a potential Venezuelan response, named Trinidad and Tobago as a country from which a lot of smuggling and human trafficking occurs. Folks, is we neighbor. We didn't hear to this thing, Trinidad, even though the night riders bust we tail last night. This is serious business. This is serious business, and we ought to make sure we pay attention. We ought to make sure that we pay attention to all these utterances, all this saber rattling and all. Don't forget, they say Essequibo belongs to them. They have said so. They have talked about targeted missiles to Trinidad and Guyana. Don't forget, follow these things. Now, we have a lot more to talk about, but since we're almost out of time, let me bring in CC to give his closing, and then we're going to move on. Before CC gives his closing, there is that video I want to show, and I don't know what it is. I'm trying to make sense of it. Maybe you students can aid me in this. Let me show you this video. It's a minute and a half long, and then tell me what you make of this. I really can't. I try to understand what really play out there. I really am truly trying to understand what was playing out there. I don't know. So maybe the police will issue a release to let us know. I saw, as we were all seeing, two men rode up on a small motorcycle. They went into what appears to be a shop. Shortly after, the police they come on the vehicle. You saw two of them standing nearby on motorcycles. I don't know if they were police because the helmet that one has on doesn't look like a police helmet. And then they came out of the pickup, no address, so they're not properly dressed. So again, you're not sure who they are. And you see like one went and rode away on the motorcycle. So I really don't know what happened there. I really don't know. I would hope that they give some logical explanation as to what transpired. The hope is not, as some people are suggesting on social media, that is Steve the police thief the motorcycle. I hope it's not that. I hope it is not that. But I think it warrants a credible explanation. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for his closing, and then we're going to move on. CC?
Yeah, when the minister said that the utmost best, she was very presidential. Can't remember the president saying the thing was lucidly clear. So she very presidential. Anyway, let me move on. I spoke on a couple of sessions ago about irregularities at the special constabulary SCs. Understand, like they're listening. Here on Friday, somebody rushing in breakneck speed to Timeri and paid off some of them. You see some allowance that they owe them June and July, but then get June. And also those persons who had retired and they had expected to get a little function for them and their gifts where the CID, the special constabulary had collected checks to do that. They're still waiting. And there's some other long-standing issues. Somebody need to do a proper audit of the special constabulary. There are many other departments, but we're focusing on this special constabulary. They're listening, but they're doing things, but the major ones, they are not looking at it. Something is definitely wrong with the special constabulary financial arrangements. But here, that nothing will really happen because certain people are connected to the are connected to the conform squatter. And further, I say not.
Right. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Well, we got to tell you all this what we're going through, and it look like as busy signal said, he said 5 more now, but more year upon them. But let me tell you all this. Let me tell you all. I understand that as we said Thursday there was no press conference, but very soon, I guess this week, I don't know if it's a change, but we got here. I gotta play you all Mighty Juke, man. I gotta play. Sit back and listen to Mighty Juke.
It was a big bacchanal just the other day with Enid and Shimakume. Big comments the other day with Enid and Shimakume. I ain't want to hear, so I pass him straight. A fella pull me and tell me wait. Same time Enid husband get off the bus. Well, it's now the Makume start to cuss. She say, look Enid, remember it's you who say how you hire your husband so total bay. Your sweet man does come home in the house too. He could only watch and he can't say, yeah Enid, woman why you lying on me? Girl, I'm not in your category. And if even said what you said is true, you have a man with your husband too. It hurt me, but I felt so shame when I hear she called him my name. He's so shocked, he don't know what to do, so he stand up there listening to. A policeman was right on the beat, run to make an arrest, but he come as sweet. Enid is a big socialist himself. She want to cuss, but she hardly open she mouth. Girl, you should shame to curse me for true. It's me, Enid, who you talking to. When you were sick in the hospital, I lend you me dress, me nighty and all. What you know about shame, the Makume say. You didn't shame last week Saturday when your husband come home earlier. Instead, you had to hide the man underneath the bed. When the man hear that, he face come pale as mud. If you choke him, you can't get blood. Watching the wife and shaking the head, I say, Lord, well, tonight she dead. And next comments, woman listening shout, hey, mouth open man Tory jump out. This time the Makume put she hand on she waist, and if you see how she getting on in the place, she say, look, Enid, it's better you leave and go. Don't let me talk everything I know, because you and Doris couldn't agree. You tie the child in the girl belly. I don't care what you say to do. I am still Mistress Enid they do. Bailiff I take back my TV set, and I never thief peas in the market yet. Now the husband shame, he couldn't take no more. He tell the wife, girl, come let we go. He hold she hand and he pulling she, but she tugging away from me. The Makume say, yes, you manny cool. You better take she away for true. She hire so dotish and borrow kid. What she give to rob, is that you take and eat? He say, listen young woman, stop making strife. You want to put me against my wife. In front me face, you're lying on she. My wife ain't have nobody with me. I know that man you are speaking about. That is her cousin who first from south. When he come home with a sleeping tree, sometime I myself does take he for me.
I love Juke, man. I love Juke. I love Juke. Woman bacchanal. Real big time abusing. Real is classic, Now all them vulgarity and all them type of thing. Classic. Sit down, listen to the words, listen to the lyrics. Classic Juke and other of that ilk, real calypso, man. Real Kaiso. Now, sad news again, as we were about to close, just received word that another death, some construction worker lost his life early this morning when a concrete wall collapsed at its work site at Bachelor's Adventure East Coast Demerara. They say, according to initial report, the worker was carrying out duties on the construction site when the structure gave way without warning, pinning him in beneath the rubble. He was pronounced dead at the scene despite swift response efforts from co-workers and emergency personnel. The incident has prompted an immediate investigation. Authorities seek to determine the circumstances surrounding the structural failure, including whether safety standards were being observed at the time. The worker's identity has not been officially released as police await confirmation and notification of the family. What standard they talking about? What safety standard? They got safety standard in Guyana when you're doing construction and so on. Do they have safety standard? What nonsenseness is that? They don't have any safety standard. Don't have some man lost his life there this morning. Condolences to the family. Condolences. They don't have safety standard. We talk about the road. You know, we talk about lawlessness all over. You know, look around with all the constructions and so on going on. They don't have, people don't have safety harness and safety belts and all them type of thing. Look, even when they thing on the road, they put up some big drum, no reflector and all them type of thing. They got a road now with the light post in the middle of the road. Are you talking about safety standard? Again, condolences. Let me close with this one. Let me spend the next couple of minutes. You know, I'm telling you all over and over with this new configuration of the soon to be sworn in new parliament, the 13th parliament of Ghana. We are in uncharted waters. You have the PPP with 36 seats. You have the We Invest in National with 16. You have the coalition APNU with 12. And you have the Forward Ghana movement with 1. We know, this is not slow saying so, that even before the elections, PPP said that they wanted to get a 2/3 majority. Now, 2/3 of 65 is 33 point something, 34. So they were saying, 44, sorry, oh God, me much like them, 44. So the story is they did not get that. And the only reason they could have wanted to have that supermajority, as it is called, is that will give them the authority or give them the numbers to make constitutional changes. Because if you get the simple majority, 33 as they add, you can make law. You can make law. But they wanted a supermajority. And the only reason they could have wanted a supermajority is so that they can change the constitution. Now, yesterday, in a thing called Conversation Tree, this is a piece written by former Speaker of the House, former PPP member, Ralph Ramkaran, Senior Counsel. He made a very interesting revelation. I want you to follow it and look at it. The leader of the largest block of opposition, Asad Mohammed, has been saying that the opposition members of the Guyana Election Commission should resign, seeing now that the APNU, who would have put them there, no longer has the largest majority in parliament. Now, Vincent Alexander, a member of one of the opposition commissioners, has said that the constitution, the way it is structured, allows them to be there unless they have to move for informality or misconduct or something like that. So it's not a case that he's arguing where there's now a new majority or they're going to be a new opposition leader, most likely, and therefore they should move on. He said, no, they don't work, sir. I have seen a lot of comments about it. Neville December wrote about it. Some people have said that the decent thing to do is for them to resign and so on. But in yesterday's Conversation Tree, Ralph Ramkaran, and then he was part of this the constitution reform process back in 2000 something. He's saying that maybe they should change the constitution to allow for term limits for the GCOM commissioners. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. He's saying that one of the things they should do, because there's no term limit on the commissioners, so maybe they can change the constitution to provide for term limits to the commissioners. I believe, given the posturing and the statements made by Azuddin Mohammed, if such a proposal were to be put to the Win party at some stage, they might be inclined because they're already calling for the people to move. Obviously, they want to be able to nominate persons to that position. So I would not be surprised if they were to team up with the PPP to get the supermajority to change that provision in the Constitution. Now, once you do that, that aspect of term limit, what happened to the next aspect? The term limit, which says that the president can only serve for 2 terms. This second term, is Jagdeo fourth and President Irfan Ali second. They have been uncomfortable with it. I tell y'all before, they agreed to the change to introduce term limits, and then they challenged it all the way to the CCJ. And it is the CCJ, the Caribbean Court of Justice, that said the term limit means that when you serve 2 terms, you're done. So Irfan Ali, for all intent, is on his second term, unless they go and they change the Constitution, and then, as they were suggesting, to insert the word consecutive, or perhaps do away with it altogether. Because they wanted to insert the word consecutive to say that you cannot serve for more than 2 consecutive terms. And the implication there was that if you serve 2 consecutive terms, you can come out for 1 term, and then you can come back. You can come back. So I am telling you these things. I am no politician. I'm no political analyst. I get a little common sense. And in these days, common sense is a rare commodity, but I still retain some. I thought I'll flag this. I have more to talk about it, but time has caught up with us this morning. Again, y'all be on alert. Watch the ride. Because at the end of the day, let me face it, Win is an unknown entity. Win is an unknown entity. And we know if when Win, W-I-N, we invest in nationhood, they get into parliament, if they will add a D and it turn W-I-N-D. So anywhere the wind blows, it cool with me. You know the song? Anywhere the wind blows, it cools me. Watch the ride. Watch the ride. Folks, we've had a long morning. We got a lot of stuff left back here. You know, we have a lot of stuff that is left back. We're going to deal with that another day. Again, I implore you, as I usually do at every program, to stay well, to stay well. This dangerous place called Guyana. No, the only natural disaster that we don't have earthquake, we don't have hurricane, but I guess something named politics, which is perhaps even more dangerous than those. So again, I urge you to be safe, to stay well until we meet. As God spare life, we're going to meet again on Wednesday at 11 o'clock, if the Lord so allows. And we're going to bring you another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Until then, stay well. Bye.